I am proud to create him Prince of Wales, Tywysog Cymru, the country whose title I have been so greatly privileged to bear.
What could possibly cause a king to bypass all usual procedures to sign an important document in the middle of the night? Why at that crucial moment were neither Camilla nor William supposed to enter the room where it all happened? And what happened just hours later, causing the guardianship of the most powerful treasures of the royal family, the crown jewels, to suddenly be transferred to Catherine? It all began with an unexpected event at Buckingham Palace. During a reception for foreign diplomats, King Charles reportedly collapsed suddenly in front of many guests. Within minutes, security quickly sealed off the scene. Guests were escorted out, doctors were called in through a private entrance, and almost all information disappeared behind the closed doors of the palace. But what made it so special wasn't just the king's health. What supposedly happened behind closed doors triggered a series of decisions that altered the relationships between Charles, Camilla, William, and Catherine, and set the future of the crown jewels on an unprecedented trajectory. If you love dramatic royal stories and want to explore the next developments with us, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest videos. And I'd also love to know where in the world you're watching this video from. Leave your country or city in the comments so we can greet each other and discuss this story.
I have full confidence in Catherine and William. Their judgment is sound, their loyalty unquestioned.
I'll try to read and respond to as many comments as possible. And to understand why that decision was made that night, we must go back to the first moment that sent the entire palace into a state of alarm. The reception that day was arranged like any other diplomatic event at Buckingham Palace. The lights were on, the greetings were exchanged according to protocol, and the foreign guests were present in the solemn royal setting. But then, in an instant, everything changed. King Charles reportedly collapsed unexpectedly in the middle of the ceremony. There was no clear announcement, no immediate explanation. The first thing that appeared was the reaction of the security forces. They quickly moved into the area, controlled the crowd, and according to reports, some guests' phones were put away or confiscated to prevent any images from being leaked. For a family that meticulously controls public image, the moment a king collapses in front of international guests was something that could not be allowed to spread chaotically. Immediately afterward, guests were escorted out of the area through side entrances. The party atmosphere vanished. Instead, there was a tense silence, hurried footsteps, and doors constantly closing. Doctors were called in through a private passage so discreet that many in the palace rarely saw them. From that moment on, what happened inside Charles's private chambers was virtually unheard of by the outside world. What made things even more somber was that after this incident, the public heard a message that seemed far more reassuring. Outside the palace, everything was presented as if Charles's health was stabilizing. Phrases like "treatment may be reduced in the new year" led many to believe that the situation was improving. But behind that curtain, the accounts revealed a different picture. The medical team reportedly told Charles that the true extent of his condition was far more serious than the public understood. A second health indicator began to deteriorate faster than the doctors had anticipated. In that moment, Charles understood that this was no longer a matter of schedule ceremony or media attention. It was a question of what would happen if his time was shorter than everyone expected. That very feeling drove him to his decision that night. His private secretary reportedly advised Charles to wait until morning. Just a few more hours, and things could be handled more calmly, with more witnesses, more time for deliberation. But Charles refused. He didn't want to wait. Not because he didn't understand the consequences, perhaps because he understood all too well the consequences of waiting any longer. And so the royal solicitor was summoned to the palace that very night. A document that could have taken months to discuss, review, and quell internal reactions was now placed on the table in a state of emergency. No grand ceremony, no full family present. There was no public announcement. Just a closed room, a king facing the fear of time, and a decision that had been prepared for months but would be finalized in a matter of hours. The room where the decision was finalized was devoid of the two people who should have been informed first. Neither Camilla, neither William. According to the account before the document was placed before Charles, a question had been repeated more than once. He was asked if he wished Queen Camilla to be summoned to the room. His wife, standing beside him as consort, was theoretically supposed to know of a decision that could change her position within the royal family. Charles answered curtly, "Number." Then a second question was asked. Did he wish Prince William to be summoned? William was the direct heir. If this decision concerned the future of the crown jewels, Catherine's role, and the symbolic transfer of power within the monarchy, then William seemed equally inescapable. But Charles still answered, "Number." Those two refusals completely changed the atmosphere of the room. If it had been just an administrative document, Camilla might not have needed to be present. If it had been a routine succession preparation, William could have been informed later. But with both his wife and heir kept outside the door, the decision no longer resembled a family discussion. It was more like an act protected from the family itself. Charles didn't want anyone to enter to ask further questions. He didn't want anyone to delay. He didn't want Camilla to object. He didn't want William to demand an explanation. And he didn't want any other hand to touch the final decision before it was finalized. In that room, he was no longer a husband, considering his wife's feelings. Nor was he a father preparing for his son. He was a king trying to lock down the future in the way he believed necessary before time could take away this last chance. Then the document was presented. There was no noise, no ceremony, no family standing around witnessing a meticulously planned historical moment. Only Charles's signature, the presence of the royal solicitor, and the heavy weight of an irreversible decision. The moment the pen touched the page, everything was supposed to have changed. And after signing, Charles uttered only 3 words. "It is done," not an explanation, not an apology, not a declaration of authority before the court. Just a short, cold, almost empty sentence, as if he had just laid down a burden that had weighed on his shoulders for too long. But what truly shook everything was the content of the document itself. As soon as the signature was complete, the person empowered was not Camilla, not the wife who was by the king's side, neither was William the heir to the throne, but Catherine. And it was the name Catherine appearing in that document that transformed everything from a secret nighttime decision into a power shift within the royal family. The document in question was an emergency guardianship order, an emergency guardianship order. At first glance, it might seem like a dry legal procedure. But in this context, its content carried immense weight, because what was being transferred wasn't an ordinary asset, not a house, a plot of land, or temporary representation. It was the sole guardianship of the crown jewels, the most sacred symbols of the British monarchy. From the moment the document was signed, Catherine was placed directly responsible for the treasures intrinsically linked to the monarchy. The imperial state crown, the St. Edward's crown, the Cullinan diamond, the Koh-i-Noor diamond, and the entire system of crown jewels at the heart of the royal family's symbolism. Each of those names is more than just a piece of jewelry. They represent coronation hereditary power, a history of victories, losses, controversies, and wounds that have never truly healed. In the public eye, they may be glittering gems behind protective glass. But within the royal family, they are intrinsically linked to the legitimacy of the monarchy. Whoever controls them holds not just objects, they hold a part of the soul of the monarchy. Therefore, Catherine being granted sole guardianship is not simply a favor. It's a silent declaration that Charles believes she is capable of protecting the next royal figure even before she is queen, and even while William remains the legitimate heir. The question many are asking is, did Charles truly have the right to do so? And the answer lies in the royal prerogative, the monarch's special authority. With assets and symbols directly tied to the crown, the reigning monarch had the power to make momentous decisions without necessarily going through the family parliament or a public vote. In other words, Charles didn't need Camilla's permission. He didn't need William's approval, and Catherine didn't need to be in that room for the document to take effect. In terms of authority, this could be explained, but what makes it unusual isn't whether he had the power or not. It's how he exercised that power. The timing immediately after a serious health event. The speed a document of historical significance completed in just a few hours. The secrecy, no public announcement, no family meeting, no psychological preparation for those directly affected. These three factors give the decision the feel of a race against time. Charles didn't act like someone slowly arranging the future. He acted like someone afraid that if he waited any longer, the last opportunity would disappear. And for Catherine, this was even more significant. She wasn't just taking on an honorary role. She was placed at the center of a power transition she herself might not have been prepared for. From a beloved public figure, Catherine suddenly became directly linked to the most controversial treasures of the royal family. And Camilla, she didn't know. William didn't know either. No one in the family had been forewarned that in a closed room in the middle of the night, the future of the crown jewels had quietly changed hands. And when the entire future of the crown jewels silently changed hands overnight, the first person to be hit hard wasn't William, but Camilla. What made it even more bitter was that Camilla didn't hear the news from Charles himself. There was no private conversation between the couple, no prior explanation, no moment to prepare herself. She reportedly only learned the truth from a palace employee hours after the signature had dried on the paper. And for Camilla, it wasn't just news. It was an insult. As soon as she heard it, she went straight to Charles's study. Gone was her usual public composure. Gone was the smile she'd practiced for years, standing beside the throne. All that remained was a woman who realized a decision directly affecting her position had been made behind her back. The study door wasn't completely closed, and that small detail made the conversation inside one of the most tense moments of the story. Camilla questioned Charles. She wasn't just asking why Catherine was chosen. She wasn't just asking why she hadn't been informed. What she said carried a heavy sense of exclusion. "You've made me meaningless even while I'm still living beside you as your wife." It was a statement more painful than any accusation, because it wasn't about ownership of a piece of jewelry. It was about position, about recognition, about the fear that after all these years of trying to hold her own in this family, she was still someone who could be cast aside at any moment. But Charles's reaction was even colder. He didn't apologize. He didn't try to reassure her. He didn't say that Camilla still mattered. He responded with a very clear statement. "The crown was never yours. It was only borrowed." The crown was never hers. It was only borrowed. That statement cut straight into Camilla's role as consort. A king's wife could wear the crown at a ceremony. She could wear royal jewelry on important occasions. She could appear alongside the monarch in public. But all of that didn't mean she owned them. They belonged to the crown, not to the woman standing beside it. And for Camilla, that truth was probably nothing new. But hearing it from Charles himself, right after he had handed over power to Catherine, turned a cold principle into a personal wound. That pain didn't appear overnight. It had been building up. Once Camilla had asked to wear a historic diamond necklace during an important visit. She was told that the request needed further consideration. But then the consideration vanished in silence. No explicit refusal, no explanation, just the familiar silence of the palace. 2 years later, that same necklace reappeared on Catherine's neck at a state banquet. Camilla saw it like millions of others through public imagery. She didn't make a fuss, didn't react to the press, didn't turn it into a public battle. But silence didn't mean she forgot. For in everything, Camilla always carried the feeling of being the underdog. Before, she had stood in Diana's shadow. Even as queen consort, she never truly escaped that comparison. And now, with Catherine entrusted with the crown jewels, Camilla felt herself pushed to the background once again. This time not by the past, but by the future. Diana was a memory she couldn't overcome. Catherine was the new symbol she couldn't stop. So the confrontation in Charles's office was no longer a quarrel about diamonds, necklaces, or tiaras. It became the moment Camilla saw clearly her true place in this family. A wife, a consort, someone allowed to borrow the symbol of power, but never truly possess it. And it was this feeling of losing her place that made Camilla's anger more dangerous than any piece of jewelry. And after Camilla's anger erupted, the biggest question remaining wasn't just what she had lost, but why Charles had placed it all in Catherine's hands. Because Catherine hadn't asked for that decision. In accounts, she had even asked Charles to wait, not to refuse forever, not to deny responsibility, just to wait for a less painful time for everyone in the family. Catherine understood that any decision concerning the crown jewels was never merely a matter of ceremony. It would affect Camilla. It would affect William. It would create questions within the royal family. And more importantly, it could turn her from a beloved symbol into the center of a confrontation she never wanted to start. But Charles signed anyway. He didn't wait any longer. And that shows that in Charles's eyes, Catherine was no longer just the king's daughter-in-law, not just the heir's wife, but an integral part of the monarchy's survival plan after his death. The first reason lies in Catherine's image. For years, she was seen as a stable, gentle, yet steadfast face of the royal family. She wasn't loud. She didn't create a sense of power struggle. She didn't advance through confrontation. Instead, Catherine built her position through patience, a family image, a calm demeanor, and the ability to appear at the right time and in the right way. That's a very different kind of strength from Camilla. Camilla represented a controversial past. Catherine represented a future more easily accepted by the public. And Charles understood that. Another reason is her ability to attract public attention. Every time Catherine appeared at a major event, every detail around her was observed, her attire, her expressions, her gestures, and especially the jewelry she chose. Items that had lain dormant in archives for years suddenly became the subject of discussion simply because Catherine wore them at the right time. That's what Charles saw. The crown jewels couldn't just exist as relics behind glass. They needed someone who could make new generations look at them, talk about them, and feel that they still held meaning. Catherine had the ability to revive that historical value without grand pronouncements. Simply by her appearance, the old symbol was given new life. But precisely because of this, the burden placed on her was even greater. Because the crown jewels weren't just beautiful, they carried a very heavy history. The imperial state crown was a symbol of monarchical power in the most momentous moments. It appears when royal authority needs to be displayed, when the king or queen is present, not just as a person, but as the embodiment of the crown. The St. Edward's crown is even more sacred. It is associated with the coronation, with the moment a monarch is officially granted power before history. It's not an item used frequently. It appears rarely, but each appearance signifies the transfer of an entire dynasty. Then there's the Cullinan diamond, a colossal diamond associated with power wealth and the image of the empire. It sparkles, but behind that light lie unanswered questions about its origin's history and what the royal family chooses to preserve as a symbol. And especially the Koh-i-Noor is not mentioned as an ordinary diamond. It is a symbol of controversy, of colonial memory, of demands for retribution that have never truly disappeared. Many generations have looked at it not only for its beauty, but also for a painful part of history. So when Charles entrusted the guardianship of the crown jewels to Catherine, he didn't give her a box of jewels. He gave her a legacy, a responsibility, a history full of glory but also full of cracks. And perhaps that's why the decision had to be kept secret until the very last minute. Because if it were made public too soon, it wouldn't just hurt Camilla. It would expose a bigger truth in Charles's eyes. The person who could help the royal family move into the next chapter wasn't the one standing beside him now, but the one who would represent the future after he left the stage of power. And once the crown jewels were placed in Catherine's hands, the matter didn't end with a signature. Because a decision made in silence rarely ends in silence. It only waits for those excluded from that room to begin reacting. For Camilla, the biggest question was whether she truly accepted her new position. In public, she might appear calm, still smiling, still standing beside Charles at official events. But inwardly, things were different. She not only knew that the crown jewels had been given to Catherine, she also knew that the decision was signed without her presence, without her consent, and without even prior notice. This opened up a more dangerous possibility. Would Camilla remain silent forever, or would she seek to challenge this decision? Some of the legal advisors mentioned in the document questioned whether if Charles were no longer alive, Camilla could use her position as his surviving wife to challenge the guardianship order. This was no longer a matter of mere family sentiment. If drawn into the dispute, it could become an unprecedented legal issue, a decision signed by the king based on royal authority, but questioned by the very woman who once stood beside him on the throne. And if that were to happen, Catherine would not only have to defend the crown jewels symbolically, she might face a battle over legitimacy succession and whether a signature in the middle of the night would be enough to shape the future of the entire royal family. Meanwhile, inside the palace, signs of preparation for the future were beginning to appear. Not with grand pronouncements, not with an official press conference, but through subtle changes, careful wording, adjusted schedules, and details that give the impression something is being prepared behind closed doors. In particular, Trooping the Color is depicted with an unusual atmosphere. It's a familiar ceremony, a symbolic royal event. But in this context, it's shrouded in a heavier weight, as if those inside the palace weren't just preparing for a ceremony, but for the possibility that this might be one of the final moments of an old chapter of power. And that makes Charles's midnight decision even more thought-provoking. Was he simply protecting the crown jewels, or was he secretly preparing for a day when he himself would no longer have enough time to control everything? Did the signature in that closed room truly shape the future of the royal family? Will Camilla remain silent, or will she one day stand up and reclaim what she believes has been taken from her? Can Catherine shoulder this new responsibility without being crushed by the weight of history, controversy, and expectations? And if things continue this way, what will happen after Charles is no longer directly in control? Perhaps the answer lies not in the present. It lies in what happens next, in Camilla's reaction, in William's silence, in the pressure on Catherine, and in the silent preparations behind the palace walls. If you find this story thought-provoking, please share your perspective in the comments. Who do you think is under the most pressure in this story? Charles, Camilla, or Catherine? And I'd also love to know where in the world you're watching this video from. Leave your country or city name in the comments so we can greet and discuss. If you enjoy videos analyzing royal stories from a narrative perspective, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow our upcoming content. Because in this story, a signature was made in the night. But the real battle may have only just begun. This video is intended for commentary and discussion. Viewers should consult multiple sources of information before forming any opinions. Thank you